So now we're going to start talking about spatial joins. So spatial joins are different because what these ones do, similar to if you join by attribute, right? So if you select by attribute, you're selecting by things in the table. If you join by those attributes, or you join by fields, or do a table join, that's going to do that by some sort of field. Is going to have that key somewhere in your data set. So if I'm doing a spatial join, the things that you can do instead is much like the spatial selection. So in this case, you're going to use the topology, or how things relate together, to get the information that you want out. So in this particular case, this is not going to use the spatial selection up here. Instead, what this is going to use is your geoprocessing toolbar. So to find your geoprocessing toolbar, what you can do is you can go to Analysis and you can go to Tools. This is going to pull up on the right-hand side all of the different tools that you can use. Now, under your favorites or recents, these might have things that you've used before. So in my case, I've had add, join, and export features, and I use calculate field and buffers a lot. The other thing in here is that over in my toolboxes, I have a whole bunch of other things. So if you happen to know where the thing you're looking for is, or maybe you're looking for other associated sorts of information, so let's say you're doing crime stuff and you want to update that, then you can take a look and see what is happening here. So in this case, you've got cell phone records to feature class in case, for data location purposes, let's go with. So, but in this particular case, the thing that you're going to want is what's called the Summarize Within tool. The Summarize Within tool is going to take your polygons, right, and it's going to see what's in them. So very similar to select things within, but in this case, instead of just pulling that information and selecting out something that's in there, instead what this is going to do is it's actually going to summarize those things. So same thing as I mentioned before, the first thing you always want in, or the top thing you want in when you deal with any of these tools, is going to be the output that you want. So in this case, if you want polygons out, then you're going to have polygons out. So in this case, we're going to use the Summarize Within tool, and it says input polygons, right? So our input polygons, if you look over on the left-hand side, there's only two types of polygons that we can use. In this particular case, we are going to want to have our wisteria. We're going to summarize the number of hurricanes by county, right? So our input polygons are going to be our wisteria counties with disaster declarations, right? We're going to have our input summary features. Those summary features, in this case, we're going to do is going to be the hurricanes. So the hurricanes is what's called the IB Tracks Continental USA. This is the data source from this. And you are going to give this a name. So same thing as before. If you want to change the location of it, if I look here, right, if I just hover over this, it's going to pull up the full path that this is going to go to, the full directory. So this is going to go into my documents, ArcGIS, projects, Lab 6 vectors, that geodatabase, and then it's going to give this very large name. So if I want to change that, I can click here and I can go and put it wherever I want. I can put it in my documents, I can put it in my downloads, wherever I want to do this. Or if I do want to keep this in my current geodatabase, right? What I can also do is I can say, great, I want to have this be, what am I dealing with? This is going to be the Wisteria County's summarized hurricanes, let's go with. I can call it that. Now, you don't have to call it that, you can call it something else. Okay, so summary fields, this is going to say if there's a field in here that you want, right? So if I go in here, it can say what's the max storm amount, the mean storm, the first year, the first month, the max, USA wind speed, this is going to be wind speed. I can change those if I want, or I can not. So in this case, it's just going to be summarizing information about that. So in the case here, I say that we don't need this, so I can just run it. and it's going to start running this. So if I don't have any of these summary fields, what this is going to do is it's just going to count how many are in there. But if I wanted to see whether or not, let's say, different counties in Florida have a different average hurricane wind speed or maximum hurricane wind speed, then I can adjust these using these fields and their associated statistics. So I can go max wind speed, and I can do the statistic, and I can say I want the max of the max. So who has had the strongest hurricanes going through it, for example. So if I right click on this and open up the attribute table and go all the way over to the right hand side, now what you'll see is that there is the count of the lines, right? So this count of lines is going to say how many, what it has done is it has gone through and it has put this box around it, and then it's counted the lines within this, right? So this one here should have 3, right? So this Howell County, if I go all the way down, this one has 3. So this is the count of the lines. So this is how many hurricanes have gone through here. So if I sort this descending, then you can see how many had the most hurricanes, right? So we had these 3 with the most. If I go all the way over, I can see that this is Dare, Georgetown, and Brunswick. If I wanted who had the longest amount of lines, the summarized length in kilometers, right? So what this is going to tell you is it's going to take, for example, this one here, it's going to take this length of this line plus the length of this line, and it's going to add those together. So, for example, in this case, this one is 76 kilometers. So it added up those 2 lines together, right? So there's a couple of different things that are important to note about that. The first one is that if you have a super long one and you have one hurricane that runs all the way through it, that's going to be a large line, right? That's going to have a lot of area attached to it. So the geometry of your counties matters is the first one. And the other part about this is that it's not just the geometry of the counties that matter, it is also going to be how many ones went through here, right? So if I had a lot of them, even if they were just little, then I probably have a slightly larger amount that's going on here. So it is both a combination of the amount and a combination of the geometry and how it's going through that geometry. So that would be how you do that. Now, if I go over, the other thing I can say is, okay, well, that's how many there actually were, but we also have the number of hurricane declarations or the disaster declarations for hurricanes that were also done by county. Now, this is different because the data is different. So whereas this amount of lines is just how many hurricanes went through, this is how many times there was some sort of disaster that was declared. And so in this particular case, you've got Terrebonne, Saint Marie, and Tangbahoa. Not even going to know if that's correct. And those are the ones that have had the most disaster declarations, right? And so in this, I want you to think about why those 2 things are different. But keep in mind, one of them is monetary and political, while the other one is just a count of lines, okay? So that is how you do a spatial join. Now, a spatial join, you can do this with other types of data. If I had a point data set and I wanted to do it that way, that would also work. If I had other line data, I could also do it that way. So summarize within is a spatial join that takes information from one data set and puts it into another one in some way, shape, or form, okay? So it's not just a selection. Now, you can also do spatial joins the other way, and you could, let's say, join the counties to the hurricanes, but that is going to be a little bit different, right? So that would be I right click on the hurricane tracks, and then the other spatial join would have the counties. And so what that would do is it would give something like the county name or the county population to each of the lines. So this is important because then you can get information from the other side of things. So that could be a really good way to say, okay, well, if I have this hurricane here, so this hurricane is Cristobal that happened in 2020. So this was Tropical Storm Cristobal. And I wanted to ask the question, how many people did Hurricane Cristobal impact? Well, the way that I could do that is I could pull the population from each of those and sum that population for each of those counties all the way across this tract, right? And then I would have a population that Cristobal impacted. Now, There's no information about how much it impacted it, but it does have that is the impact. Okay? So, going back, we have you go to your toolbox, summarize within, use this summarize within, get your information into your counties. And that's how you do spatial joins. All right, on to the next one.